All right, so I'm working on a 2004 Ford Expedition today, and the complaint was when he turns the AC on, he has air coming out of the vents, and then when he accelerates, the air stops, and then once he comes back to a stop, I guess the air comes back. And I noticed the air was coming out when I pulled it up here out of the vents, and normally on these Fords, I think I already found the problem actually, but we'll go over it anyway. On these Fords, all that's vacuum operated, and you have to go through and look at all the vacuum that's hooked to your vacuum reservoir. This is what they call a vacuum reservoir right here, and it's basically what it sounds like. It just stores extra air, so when the engine's under a load or whatever, you have enough air to operate your vents or whatever. So you have to take the battery out to get this. Is actually hooked up to the back of the battery tray. So you got to remove your battery, take the battery tray out. There's 4 13mm bolts for the battery tray, and then you can get to this. And sometimes, a lot of times, you'll see on the back of this. Normally this is okay unless it's got a crack. I'm going to go ahead and test it with the smoke machine before I put it back together. So a lot of times this elbow back here will be cracked. You can see that elbow. Sometimes that'll wear out or be cracked. And then you just want to follow your lines and just make sure everything is intact. These lines feel pretty good all the way through here. And then you have one that comes up out of the firewall that goes to your heater control valve. If that would happen to be off or something, that could cause the issue. This one's on, and it feels pretty good, so I'm not going to mess with that too much. But then you have this line that comes up from the engine, and you'll just follow it from here, and then it kind of turns into has a plastic thing on it, and goes through your fuel injector, and then goes out over there on the other side. I'll show you what I found over there where it supplies the vacuum. And that's basically the main supply that, well, I'll show you right here. Here's one of the elbows. There's actually 3 connections to it on that side. And here's one of the elbows. I don't know if you can tell, it's split. It's cracked real bad. And it's got actually split on this side too. And you can just tell it's just splitting all the way around, and it's just old and brittle. And then the other one that's on there is also bad. I'm going to replace that. So I believe that's what the problem was on this. I'm going to go ahead and smoke it and make sure there's no other leaks. But I'll show you where those connect at and where to look for that. Alright, so if you take your little engine cover off, this little engine cover off, 2 11mm bolts, you'll come down, you'll see this T right here. And actually this part of the hose right here is really rotted, and I can't even get the T out without messing it up. It's really rotted and degraded. You can see there it's kind of bunched up right there. That's from me trying to get it off. It's almost like I mean, it's rubber, but it's almost like a hot rubber. It's just completely gooey and won't come off. And then you have a small connection right here that goes up, and then you have this one here, and that's the one I showed you earlier, this one here. That's the one that comes off and goes to this line right back here. You see that black line right there? So that's where it's getting its vacuum source at. So I'm going to go ahead and replace this one here, and then I'm going to hook the smoke machine into this one and cap off this one, and we're just going to see if there's any smoke coming out anywhere else. And see, I don't think there will be. I kind of looked it over visually and saw it, didn't see anything. And I also want to tap into that vacuum reservoir right there, maybe after the check valve, and maybe tap in over there somewhere and smoke that out, make sure there's no leaks there. And if there's no leaks there, and there's no leaks in the lines from here to there, then we'll just replace these 2 elbows and call it good, take it for a test drive. So I'm going to go ahead and start the smoke machine, and then we'll put it in this line here and make sure there's no other leaks anywhere. Alright, so hopefully you can see we're smoking now. This is a smoke machine, and then we're just going to enter smoke. We're just going to hook that up right there, and then I'm going to cap off this one right here, and then we're going to just smoke this out, see if we can see any smoke anywhere else, you know, from there over to there, and then we will test that reservoir real quick. Alright, so I got the smoker in there, and I got that capped off, and I've been running this. It's been on about 2 minutes. The compressor kicked on, so I shut the camera off, but until that shut off. But anyway, it's been running about 2-3 minutes. I don't see any smoke anywhere, so I think we're good. I think we found the issue. I am going to try to take this off, like right here, and maybe smoke out this canister. It should have showed up just now with smoke in it, but I wanted to just double check it just to be sure. All right, we very rarely, I don't hardly ever see any cracks on this thing. This is your vacuum reservoir. Like I said, it sits behind your battery. But we're going to go ahead, I just want to double check it. So you can see I got smoke here. I'm just going to plug it in right here. I took it off. A lot of times you'll see it at that elbow that comes off of here. That line will be rotted. So I'm just putting smoke in it, and we shouldn't see any smoke coming out of this anywhere. Sometimes they'll get a little hairline crack, or it'll start to come apart here, and you know, smoke will escape from there. But it looks like it's fine. We got quite a bit of smoke going in there, and there's nothing going on with this. You can see there. So that is a possibility. If you check all your lines, everything looks good. This is a possibility that this is damaged in some way. Like I said, I don't see that too much on these. Yeah, there's no smoke coming out of it. Most of the time on these, if there's a problem with these, it's this elbow that comes off of here. It gets rotted out, and you have to replace it. So I'm going to go ahead and run to the store real quick and get some fittings. This here elbow, sometimes you can find these in the help section at your auto parts store. If you can't find it, it's not such an extreme turn on this. You could probably get some hose. You know, get some hose this size. It's the same size on both ends, and just run it up to that line. And it shouldn't be that big of a bend where it'll cut off supply. So I'm gonna go get that stuff real quick and replace this stuff, and then we should be good. I have to put the battery back in and put that box back in, but this should be good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and go get those parts, and then we'll come back, put them on, and see what it does. So here's the other line I took off, and you can see, of course, train comes by. This, I cut this off. It wasn't split there, but you can see it's just scaly and falling apart, and it even makes your hands black because it's falling apart. So we're going to replace this too, of course. So we're going to get those two parts. Alright, so they didn't have anything in the help section, any kind of elbow or anything. They had a couple PCV elbows in there, but their help section is kind of weak, and there was nothing the right size. So I just bought a couple feet of hose that will work. You don't need a couple feet. I always like to buy extra so I can just throw it in my box, have it for the next time. Anyway, you can see what I did here. So we just put the new hose here, so that's all new. And then this elbow here, you can see it's fine. There's no kink or anything like that. It's long enough to where it's not going to kink off the air supply. So just get yourself, if you can't find an elbow, just get yourself a little bit of line and cut it, and it'll be fine with that turn there. It's not a sharp turn. So anyway, this should be it. I'm going to go ahead and put the battery and stuff back in, and we'll just take it for a ride real quick and make sure, and kind of go over a few things and then close this video out. And this here is that elbow I was talking about for the vacuum reservoir. Just check this line right here. A lot of times that can be real brittle and have holes in it and stuff. That's usually what it is. I've only had these vacuum reservoirs cracked, I think, one time the whole time. It's pretty rare for these to go bad or to have a crack. It's usually this hose or something related to the hose or the elbow. So this is what it looks like right here. Alright, so I just took it on a loop about 4 or 5 miles, and it's fixed. This one didn't have a real big leak. A lot of times, if you have a pretty good leak or a pretty good, you know, if one of your hoses is in pretty bad shape, you'll just have defrost. You won't have... You just have your defroster. You won't have any vent air coming out of these vents normally, or the floor. Usually the default to the defrosters, and that's usually if you have a pretty big leak. This was a pretty small leak, so it was actually blowing out of here at idle. But when he would gas it, I guess it would go it would lose enough vacuum to where it couldn't blow out the vents here. So that's pretty common on these, especially when they get a little bit older like this. The elbows and all those hoses start to get pretty you know, the rubber part starts to get pretty rotted and cracked, and that's what you find on this. So anyway, that's about a, not much else to say about this one. It's a fix for it. You know, usually it's pretty cheap to fix it. You know, you take the battery out, you can get to that box. It might have been overkill to smoke that and everything, but I just wanted to make sure everything was good before I put it back together. So I already had the smoke machine out and all that good stuff. Usually, like I said before, usually those reservoirs are not the issue. It's usually that little elbow connection right there that's the issue. So almost always on these, it's almost always some kind of vacuum leak or something like that. So anyway, it's an easy fix. Just if you don't have a smoke machine, which I'm sure a lot of people don't, then just use your visual, your eyes, and go over it and just look. It's probably going to be, you know, somewhat obvious anyway. So anyway, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. As always, God bless.